So I'm delighted to be with Rob Lee this morning. Huge thanks to my listeners as well. Rob, who I discovered at Google Campus last year. So I'm a member of a number of different meetup groups, and I came along to a meetup group which was focused on smartphone and filmmaking, and also about Snapchat. And to be fair, I'd had met a few people who told me they were using Snapchat, and I have to admit, I wasn't, and I'm still not actively using Snapchat. Partly because my phone's been away. I had my smartphone repaired for 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks anyway, and so I haven't really utilized the video as much. It was interesting having a social detox, I would say, for the last 2 weeks. But I'm back online, back on videos and so forth, and that's my preference. But I just want to share the platform with Rob Lee, who I would say is one of the top UK experts on utilizing Snapchat. When Rob Lee came along to my social media morning, or my Central London Property Network morning, and talked about Snapchat, I thought it was a bit risky. I thought, let's see what's going to happen. I thought I've got nothing to lose. And wow, the audience were much more engaged than I imagined. And of course, when we talk about social media, that's all about engagement. But also in the day, the day meet people were, particularly because they saw the benefits of Snapchat as potentially a sponsor or an advertiser, particularly on the exhibition floors of major conferences. Look, Rob, I don't want to take your time up, but huge thanks for joining us. Look, we're going to look at two things. One of the key things we're going to look at is why another platform such as Snapchat. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook. There's probably about 150, well, there's probably about 10 main platforms out there, and there's probably lots of little ones as well. But why Snapchat? What I know Nicole Bremner has done really well finding deals, funding deals, but why Snapchat? Why not just focus on the likes of Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in social media for around about 5 years, very much focusing on the platforms that you just mentioned for brands, working on them with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And about 18 months ago, I was approached by an events company, and they said that we have 10,000 people on our Facebook group. We put event listings up, and the downside we kind of are noticing is that people under the age of 30 don't seem to ever say they're going. They don't respond. They don't engage with the event listing. They might turn up on the day, but they don't actually engage with it. And they didn't really understand why. So I did a bit of market research, went along, had a chat with some of the young people, and you start to get an understanding that a lot of young people just don't go on Facebook as often as, say, people our age. And the main reason is because their parents and their grandparents are on Facebook. So if they go to a festival when they put a selfie up, they get granny saying, "Why are you wearing that top?" Which is just humiliating for them. So they gravitate towards other platforms. So that's how I got my first start into Snapchat, because I realized that, I've got people from varying different client bases wanting to talk to different backgrounds. And if you want to talk to a specific demographic, it could be wasted activity if you're on Facebook and your target audience isn't on Facebook. So that's the reason why I got into it. And what I kind of realized through talking to yourself and talking to your group is that we have a changing demographic going on. Snapchat at the moment, 70% of its user base is actually now over the age of 18. So a lot of people are saying this has got something. There's something about Snapchat that I need to get an understanding of, I need to get a hold of, and see if it can benefit my brand. It's completely different. It's a unique platform in comparison to Facebook, and it does require a little bit of effort to get an understanding of how do I get on board, how do I make it work for my brand, how do I actually get to the point of having fun with it. Because I do open courses. I have lots of brands and social media managers coming to my courses. And the biggest kind of step is actually putting content out there. Shooting for the first time is viewed with a little bit of trepidation. So that's really what I kind of work with. And I suppose the interesting thing, because you mentioned Nicole, is that with these new platforms that are coming up, there are, like you mentioned, a whole load of platforms that are established and ones that are coming up. you have a competitive advantage if you become an early adopter in your field. So Nicole, as you mentioned, she's been using it mainly to increase her profile. It works really around her brand. That's what she's using it for almost daily, and it's kind of seeming to really work for her. I don't know if you've seen any of her stories,
Not
but she,
not not in the last few weeks, to be fair.
but a lot of it's around, this is my daily life as a property developer, so and investment funder. So she will give updates on the crowdfunding. She will give updates on which property she's interested in, and then she'll also give updates on her life as well. That's the first thing. The second thing is around, and I think you're going to go on to this a bit later, but is around the location-based services. So Snapchat has additions and features that Facebook and Twitter don't have. And this is where Snapchat really fits. You kind of really need to understand it's not replacing Facebook and Twitter. What it's doing is it's giving you an advantage. It's giving you additions and things that will support your other social media work. And the people like Nicole who are really taking this on board are really reaping the benefits of that.
Rob, so we're going to focus on location-based marketing as well. And you mentioned about Instagram earlier. And Instagram, I have definitely looked at. For me, Instagram is so much more user-friendly. I have to admit, I still prefer the classics such as Twitter, partly because I've been on there since, I wouldn't say day one. It wasn't day one, but early-ish adopter. And for me, Instagram, I can see the appeal by a long way. You mentioned there's location-based services with Instagram. People may not necessarily be utilizing, and from the impression I got from our conversation beforehand, you didn't mean actually as an advertiser, i.e., spend advertising, which you can do through Facebook ads and so forth. You're referring to other things. Is that right?
Kind of. So with Instagram, you can add location-based tags, so people can kind of see what else is in the area. That's evolving. Snapchat is the one that's really leading the way with it, with things called geofilters. So what geofilters are is, and I expect to see this or something similar to this on Instagram coming fairly soon. But what geofilters are, they're on demand. So you can basically drop an option to have an overlay in a certain area. And what does that mean? Okay, you run property events, Brendan.
Sure.
What you can do is you can have, I'm sure you have people taking pictures at the event of themselves. Hey, here's somebody new I've met. This is a really good contact. What you could do is you could drop a geofilter, which means that if they take a picture of you with them, they can actually do a filter over the top of it and overlay Brendan's Property Meets. And what that does is that then brands those images that they're sharing on their other social media platform with your message. Now, here's where it becomes interesting. You don't get charged on how successful it is. You get charged on the space that you use and the time. So the cost is $5 per 20,000 square feet per hour. If you get 1,000 people using it or you get one person using it, it's the same price.
Sure.
You are incentivized to actually say, what's the most effective place that I can actually drop these? As an example, I did another talk at Google Campus 2 weeks ago, and we dropped a geofilter just over Google Campus for 2 hours. It cost me £4.80 for 2 hours. And
No, I understand. I understand the numbers in terms of the low cost, because I don't want to give all my marketing budget away, but with Facebook ads, I think it's almost impossible to spend literally less than £15. There may be ways to spend less than £15. I don't know what the typical average spend on Facebook ads is as well. I'm sure someone's worked it out, but £5 is one latte or two lattes. So I understand it's negligible. But sorry to interrupt you there, Rob.
That's all right. No, but that's the thing is that what you kind of open yourself up to with this is the ability to target a specific location. So if you know that your target audience is at a football ground, or is at a job centre, or is in a park, or is that a property meet or an industry talk? You can drop a geofilter to advertise your event. Now it's not passive. You do need to do a little bit of work on your other social media to let people know, hey, we have a geofilter in this area. But just as an example, we did that at the Google Campus talk. We got 45 people using the geofilter, and out of those 45, we've got 1,200 people who viewed it for £4.80. And there you kind of see leveraging events, leveraging your appearance at an event to actually ask people to take the picture, overlay the geofilter. It's very, very powerful advertising that can have a very long shelf life.
Rob, the main event for developers, I would say, isn't my event, to be fair, is MIPIM. So, possibly something which may discuss, offline as such. But going back to how developers can use geofilters, how could Nicole, for example, use geofilters? Nicole Bremner from eState, who, just to give a little bit of background, raised about £2 million through crowdfunding in 2016. But how could Nicole or someone else, possibly as a developer, utilize that geofilters? So can you give a scenario as such?
Yeah, two scenarios. Firstly, if she's specifically looking for investors, the one thing, like I mentioned, is you could actually target an investment event or an entrepreneurial event. I went to, and here's the thing, these are underutilized at the moment. So again, you've got the chance to be an early adopter. I went to the Excel in November for the digital marketing show.
Sure, yeah.
And not one marketing company had a geofilter there. Not one, and it was only afterwards I thought, well, I had the option there to really be ahead of the game. But here's the thing: is if you're looking, if you're looking for specific people in a specific event, then you could drop a geofilter and be ahead of the game. So that's one thing she could do to kind of just make people in that area aware this is an option for them. The second thing is you have industry events like I can't remember the name of it, but I think at your property meet we mentioned she got recognised for an industry event. Do you remember that?
Nicole?
Yeah.
I think she was, well, a number of events, to be fair, but Property Investor Awards, that's one of the events she...
That's the one. So think about the amount of images that were taken, again, at that event with Nicole. Nicole could have put a geofilter over the building where the event's taking place, which means that anybody who shares that image has the option to put her branding over there. eState Property Development it's called. So you could kind of brands those images, share them on Twitter, which means that any industry event images that are shared bear her brand message.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It does. I have to admit, possibly because I've not done it, it does seem, I've utilized social media, I had a daily video blog for 117 days. What I do understand is you can spend some serious money with Facebook advertising and not necessarily always get the returns. It's not about how much you're investing, it's about what the returns are.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely eager to learn as much as possible from yourself. And I'm really delighted that you're going to be on the or at the Wandsworth Property Network on the 21st of I think it's the 21st of this coming month, February. I'm sure you're going to be involved in more of my events, particularly my larger scale events as well. So what I would say to the listeners, the key thing is I know what you've done in terms of helping Nicole has made a difference, helping to find deals, fund deals. What was the greatest thing you said to Nicole? Let's say people can't come to the 21st of February, and I don't want you to give all your trade secrets away and all Nicole's trade secrets away, but what was the one thing you said to Nicole which made a difference? Because she mentioned about the early adopter as well.
I think the key thing is not prejudging Snapchat. And I know that Nicole sent one of her staff members to one of my open courses in the summer, and then she didn't do anything with it for a couple of months. So it was really that idea of, do you know what? I'm going to have a proper look at this. again, putting all of the preconceptions to one side and saying, okay, I'll register an account, I'll download the app, I'll register an account, I'll follow some people who are either in the property industry or actually are really good storytellers. And I can certainly recommend some of those people if anyone who's listening to this is interested. And just really absorb. Just take a week to download the app, get on it, follow people and absorb and see what other people are doing. And what you can then do, you can actually start placing everything I've just said in context. You can then start seeing what property developers in the States are doing. Right, okay, now that makes sense. I can now see how I can apply that to my own business. I believe that's what Nicole did and how she got comfortable with actually making a success of it.
Rob, now what's interesting is I had a conversation, this was quite a long time ago, on social media, on Twitter, and America was not at that time actually at the forefront of using Twitter. I would have expected they were, but and this is all people's perceptions as well. Some people actually said Europeans were ahead of the curve. Is America ahead of the curve on Snapchat, or is it Asia, or is really too early to say? And the other thing which I find fascinating is, since I've heard your presentation, I see more and more firms utilizing Snapchat. Now, KFC's had a big campaign. I've seen, but classic companies like Barber as well, the jackets, the country jackets, they've also got, for me, it's almost a bit like the classic QR code, which went out of fashion. Although I think there's a lot more to Snapchat than the classic QR code. Now, I know that's not a question as such.
Yeah. Well, on the first question, on the question that you asked, US is definitely leading the way. That said, brands to follow over here, I mean, the gold standard is pretty much Burberry. You follow Burberry, and what you'll get is you get really innovative storytelling and great ideas about how to actually cover events on Snapchat. I mean, on the second point, absolutely, using the QR code, or it's called QR code because it's in the shape of a ghost, is basically like a public statement of intent. I'm on Snapchat. Anybody who's on Snapchat recognizes that, and what it then becomes is very, very easy to kind of recognize and follow people. But you can utilize that in other ways as well. I mean, you can, if you're again at an industry event, you can have we've done it with a couple of brands. We've printed off copies of the code so people can just scan it into the app and follow you there and then. I think, again, what we're looking at with Snapchat is an incredibly innovative, forward-moving platform. They bought a few months ago an app called Verb, which is location-based recommendations. And
no, I've heard of Verb as well. I have to admit,
it's incredibly exciting. Again, no one knows how it's gonna feature into the app. No one. But Verb used to kind of be linked in with Rotten Tomatoes and Yelp. So basically, you could do a recommendation-based evening plan. You could say, okay, well, let's have a look at these restaurants. How that's going to work with property, it's going to be really interesting, I think. So yeah, there's exciting things on the horizon with that.
Sure. Rob, now, for people to get in contact with you, what's the easiest way? Is it a classic email?
My email is rob@relativelinks.co.uk. Website is relativelinks.co.uk. It's due to be updated soon with the geofilter services that we're offering. As well, Rob Lee RL on Twitter and on Snapchat. And if anyone is interested in Snapchat and just wants to kind of have a little look about how they can get started, I've got a free ebook on my that's the pinned tweet on my Twitter account, Rob Lee RL.
Sure. And that's one thing I really took away from our meeting, looking at what pinned tweets, and there's lots of things which I took away, but I have to admit, it's more looking at how I can benefit and utilize Twitter as well. So even though your focus is definitely on Snapchat or geolocation or new, you are still able to advise people on how to maximize the most from other social platforms.
I think, yes, you're right. Even though I specialize in Snapchat, Snapchat doesn't actually work in isolation. So my skill set is in realizing how you can use Snapchat in conjunction with your other platforms. It means that I have I have a very good head in terms of understanding how people are looking at how people are using their broad social media platforms and seeing how we can kind of maximize that effort and increase the engagement.
Rob, I just want to say huge thanks for taking time out. I definitely look forward to seeing you next Tuesday evening, because I know one thing, partially when you say to people, partially when you say about you didn't quite use the phraseology, but an open mind is needed for Snapchat, and for some reason, some way, you managed to open up people's minds to the opportunity. I don't know if it's because of stories you share, but I definitely do know when you presented at Central London, even though I thought this is a little bit risky, but I've got nothing to lose, let's see what happens. And that's why you're back again, so soon after, because I could just see the passion. It was like, well, I don't know what you did with the audience, but amazing passion which you created for an audience who, one, weren't using Snapchat. Maybe two people in that audience were using Snapchat.
Yeah.
However, the amount of I think partially because everyone knows it is an untapped market in terms of property. Maybe in other industries, Snapchat, maybe more extensively used, but in property, I think it's a tiny, tiny fragment who are using it to any extent. So, look, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I just look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, the 21st of February. If you can't make Tuesday, the 21st of February, I'm sure I'm going to have Rob back at some point in the near future, or connect with Rob at relativelinks.co.uk. So huge thanks for joining me this morning, Rob. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.